Hello beautiful babes, and welcome back to my channel Soul Journey. My name is Beck, and today I wanted to talk about something that literally just popped into my head to talk about because of a TikTok I literally just watched, and I wanted to clear up a misconception about spiritual powers. Now, as someone who is clairsentient, claircognizant, clairaudient, all the clairs. I channel. I am an intuitive psychic. I work with higher dimensional beings. I've worked with people who have passed. It's all really the same thing, let's be real. I read tarot, blah, blah, blah. I get a lot of people who believe that it's some sort of like extra power that I was gifted with, and that, you know, they're like, oh, like I just don't have that, so I need to come to you to do that for me. Or even people in the spiritual community, they're like, oh, well, I just don't have that ability, you were born that way or whatever. And I want to clear up this misconception, because even though some of us may have soul contracts to open up those abilities at a certain point, or maybe when we're born they're there, they're just, those filters aren't blown, it flows easier for us. That doesn't mean that like you don't have them, because the TikTok was basically like, some people are born with these things, but like to be a witch, like some aren't born with these abilities. And the fact is, we all are. We all have these abilities. It's just the people who have become aware of them and utilized them and worked the muscle. 90% of being a psychic is learning how to recognize when you're having an intuitive hit, because we all have them. And the biggest thing is trusting it and actually like being willing to speak it out and run with it. And that is a muscle that takes working. Looking back, I have always been very intuitive. I've had visions and awarenesses, but like I just thought it was my imagination, or I was just like overly emotional, or all of those things. And how I came into my being able to do all of this is I actually had a friend who, around the age of 20, it all just like dropped in her lap. Like she was just doing her thing, and then a few months later she's seeing dead people on her stairway. Like it was crazy. And I found it interesting. I was on my spiritual journey. I knew a lot of people could do that stuff, but I was just like, oh yeah, that's like her thing. But when we would hang out, when she would tap into my like past lives and stuff, I would comment on something. She's like, that's exactly what I'm seeing. And I'm like, wait a minute, am I like much more intuitive than I realized? And with her being able to confirm what those things felt like, I was able to recognize them, and they were super subtle. But as I got more and more in tune, just like playing an instrument, you know, when you first start playing, it's very clumsy, but you hone your skill, you tune your skill, and just like anything, you just become more hyper aware of those hits. So I just wanted to kind of come on here and clear up this idea that just because you're not like seeing dead people and talking to aliens and extraterrestrials, or having all these things, it doesn't mean that it's not available to you. It was really interesting. I feel like the person who made this video didn't really understand what they were saying anyway, because they were like, well, I read tarot. And I was like, you have to be intuitive to read tarot, because you can look at the card and it only gives you a fraction of the story. To actually piece it together and actually be, you know, come together with a cohesive story, and to actually like share that with someone, you have to be intuitive. And that's where, you know, where your third eye comes in, and your pineal gland, and our hearts and our guts are super tapped in. It's not so much that we aren't tapped in, it's, are you acknowledging it? Are you trusting it? Have you worked the muscle enough to know when that's happening for you? That's the big thing. So just like someone can be a bodybuilder, that would be like someone like me being like, oh, they have muscle, but I wasn't born with muscle because you can't see it. It's like, no, it's there. And if I worked it, it would become much more obvious and prominent. It's the exact same thing. So if you're on your journey, or even if you've been on your journey for a while, and there's, just like someone, we all have tendencies, there are different gifts that have different, come through easier for us. But just because you're not having that doesn't, you're not experiencing that doesn't mean that you will never have that experience. And it's really about setting the intention of, I want to be more open, hanging out with other people who have those abilities, who can kind of guide you on what it feels like. And I will say, like, there is a very easy trap, which I fell in at the beginning, this kind of like, you so want to have these abilities come forward, that you're in resistance to it actually happening, because you so want it to happen that you are like too charged about it for it to flow. So I've actually noticed that it's when I really started to relax and just kind of go with it, and was more focused on like my friend doing it and stuff, that it kind of just naturally came out. And yeah, so I think a lot of people have this misconception, especially on their spiritual journey. They're like, oh, I have to go to a psychic to, help me on my path, or I have to go to a healer, or whatever it is. And they can be amazing conduit and an amazing teacher, but you don't have to go to those people to get in alignment, to talk to your guides. It is a practice. Maybe spend time with those people and have them maybe teach you. That would be really awesome. But the thing is it doesn't matter how psychic they are. It doesn't matter how intuitive. It's still coming through their filter. And so the most important messages, the most clear messages, the ones that are going to be best for you, are actually the ones that come through yourself. I like to say to my clients, like, I don't want to be that tarot reader who you come to every week to get like confirmation for things every other second. My goal is to empower you enough through whatever interaction we have that you then own your journey and move it forward. Because that's what it is. Kind of like how Morpheus says in the Matrix, it's like, I can only show you the door, you have to walk through it. And if you are constantly going to your intuitive or your psychic to tell you what to do, you're not really owning your journey. And I know that can be hard when you feel really lost, but take what they say and own it, utilize it, become more clear with yourself. And I love having returning clients. It's beautiful. But my hope for them is that, I'll give them a reading and then I won't hear from them for several months. And then when they need just a little more clarity, they're like, okay, like I've moved forward on my journey. Can you just help me out a little bit? That's awesome. And I do that with my friends, and I go to readers and all this stuff. But when you are putting your journey in the hands of someone else because you feel they have a gift, or that you could never know these things, you're really not owning the full spectrum of your abilities as a human being, because we do have them. We're extremely feeling beings. We are extremely intuitive. Society has really knocked it out of us. But the thing is as long as you keep in that mindset of, well, I will never have that ability, or I can't do that, then yeah, you're right. It will never come through, because what we believe and expect happens. That's how we create our reality. So if you kind of just let it go and say like, hey, I'm on this path, things are going to open up for me as they're supposed to, and just like not be too tense about it, and just assume that as you become more in tune with yourself, as you become more clear, that things will open up for you, they will. And there's things I never thought I was going to be able to do, like channeling, for instance. Like, that was like this far out thing that, well, my friend could do it, but like it just was this like thing that like some people could do. And so I just kind of let go of that idea. Like I was like, well, that's just not going to probably be my journey. And then it just kind of came out of nowhere. Even the gentleman who channels Bashar, or even Esther Hicks, like she never thought that was going to be a thing for her. But Daryl Anka, who channels Bashar, actually went to a class, and he didn't actually think he could channel, but you can learn how to channel. You can learn how to do these things, just like you can learn tarot, just like you can learn how to dance, just like you can learn how to play an instrument. It's the same thing. It's honing a skill. But I think most people, again, they assume it's a gift that we're born with, so they don't even think that they could possibly have that experience, and that belief is what's going to hold it back. So anyway, I know this is kind of a random video. I don't know why I always say that. In every video I'm like, this is a random video. It's like, just it's not. This is totally on brand. But yeah, if you have any questions down below about this topic, comment them down below. I know a lot of people have this belief, you know, that some people are just more naturally gifted. And like I said, there are some people who have contracts for it to open up easier, or when they're younger, they just don't kind of lose that ability. You know, like kids are super intuitive, and crazy, aware, and that kind of fades out around 6, 7, 8 years old. But some people just don't lose that. And so, yeah, there are some people who it's easier for them, but that doesn't mean that you don't have it. It just means that your journey with it is different. But yeah, as I just saw 11:11. But as human beings, we all have the tools to tune into that. Just like no one has TV antennas, but if you have your TV antenna, if you haven't turned on the TV, yeah, it's not going to come through, but the antenna is still there. It's still available to be used, and we all have those things. Like I said, the third eye, the pineal gland, which is kind of the same thing. We all have the tools, so it's about understanding that you can open that up, and through meditation, through tarot. Tarot's a great way to start opening up your intuition. And actually, more oracle cards than anything, because at first they'll kind of blow your mind, and then after a while, you'll be like, yeah, I kind of knew that was going to come through, and that's your intuition. You're honing your intuition, and so the cards are more of a confirmation than they are like a surprise. And you'll notice that. And so, yeah, working with cards, working with crystals, meditating, like I said, connecting with other people who are in that field, who can kind of guide you and be like, oh, it kind of feels like this, or this was my experience, and you'll start noticing oh. And as we know, what we focus on, in an open and playful way, of course, we create more of in our life. So if you are focusing on it in a, I'm just open, I'm allowing whatever's going to come through, for me and my abilities, it will start to open up for you. So again, if you have any questions or comments about your personal journey with that, or maybe you feel like you're one of those people who just don't have those abilities, or if you have any questions, if you have any questions specifically about my experience when it came to opening up certain things, comment down below and I might make a video on it. So yeah, love to connect with you guys on that. Let me know if this resonates. Yeah, and if you want to check out my other social media, the links to that are in the description down below. I have tons of social media platforms for different parts of my journey. I do have my Etsy shop where you can get personal readings with me, and I do have a Patreon if you want to support me on my journey regularly. Yeah, and be sure to like this video and subscribe if you haven't. Our little soul journey family is growing, and it's absolutely amazing. I love all you guys. I don't know why I feel like this is such a random video. I feel like this was very disjointed, but maybe I'm just warm. It's very warm right now. Okay, I love you guys. Mwah. Many blessings. Namaste. And don't forget, it is all about the soul journey.